Coach, a winner-go-home scenario with the opportunity to advance to the first ever Big Ten tournament. Can you give us an idea of how you prepared your team for this matchup, both mentally and tactically speaking?
We just wanted them to appreciate this opportunity.
One of the things that stood out to you about the Penn State scouting report was their zone defense. How do you counter that offensively?
We've prepared for it this week.
Don't count this Michigan team out of this game quite yet. As we look back on the past 2 seasons, they're 2-0 in must-win situations. Take a look back at last season. You look at the win against Bellarmine, they had an overtime to send them to the ECAC conference tournament. This season against Rutgers was a must-win situation, and despite the face-off deficit to Joe Nardella, they pulled it off. So John Paul has really used that as a motivational factor, and as I'm down here listening in on the huddles of the Michigan team, if there's one word I can describe this team right now, it's confidence. Mike, 30 minutes left and you guys advance to the first ever Big Ten tournament. How do you control the tempo here in the second half?
You know, so much lacrosse to be played.
Coach, you guys are getting the job done in faceoffs right now with the 4-3 advantage over Penn State. What other elements of the game would you like to see step up?
I love how we're playing defense.
He wanted to build this team culture brick by brick for the future of this program. And Mike, although the win-loss column may not reflect that this season, Jeff Tambroni is very confident in his process, and he believes that that blue-collar culture that he envisioned is emerging.
Thank you, Michelle. And Jeff Tambroni knows about the history of this program, over 100 years, as Michelle.
Thanks, Coach. Your first road win, and you picked a good time to do it, advancing yourself now to the first ever Big Ten tournament. Can you describe what this coaching moment is like for you right now?
You know, I'm excited for sure. You know, we made it very interesting that second half.
Well, you hit on it. You made it interesting there in the second half. What was the turning point in your mind to maintain that momentum?
Well, you know, I thought Michigan was just making.
It's fairly obvious that every team looks to their seniors as their leaders, but this Michigan group of seniors is fairly unique. They were a part of Team 1, as you mentioned, but they weren't necessarily recruited with the guarantee of Division I lacrosse. So Coach John Paul said this is a special group. They weren't in it for themselves, they were in it for Michigan. They've taken on the challenge of building this Division I program and have really embraced the culture and the system that he's trying to spread. As it turns out, senior captain Kyle Zittel wasn't the only captain for this Penn State team this year. They most recently delegated those responsibilities to the newest and youngest member of their team. His name is Gavin Royer. He's a 6-year-old. He was the honorary captain of the Rutgers game last week as he was involved in the coin toss of their first ever Big Ten win. Nick Aponte, you're making history for your program, advancing your team to the first ever Big Ten tournament. What are your emotions right now?
You know, I thought it was a great team effort. We played hard all game.
You had a hat trick tonight. What opened up for you offensively, specifically against the Wolverines?
TJ Sanders started doing good pick games with me, opened up a couple things.
It's been a work in progress for head coach Jeff Tambroni now in his 5th season with Penn State. He says they're still working to develop a culture, and well, what I have in my hand here is a brick. Why? Well, that's because he describes this team culture in one word. That's builders. He says this Penn State adopted him through the Friends of Jacqueline Foundation. It was Kyle Zittel who first presented Gavin with his official letter of intent earlier this season, and since then, the team has embraced Gavin Royer with open arms and open hearts, showering him in Penn State gear, jerseys. They even gave Gavin his own locker.